I keep going back to, because it has me nervous, I keep going back to a campaign promise that the orange bastard made to the screaming hordes of white people who were brain dead to begin with, but when they came into one of these Nuremberg-style rallies of Donald Trump's, but when they were left, they were even more brain dead. But that was Trump's promise to pardon the January 6th traitors to this country who are now prisoners. And when he carries that out, he'll be putting hundreds, that's right, hundreds of these violent son of a bitches back onto the streets. That is according to a recent report from the Justice Department. The orange bastard has signaled that he's willing to grant clemency to at least some, if not all, of these traitorous dogs who slather detention onto him and worship him and still do. The ones who breached the U.S. Capitol as the lawmakers are trying to certify Joe Biden's 2020 election win. But an analysis by Huffington Post, I guess it's now called HuffPost, right? This analysis of sentencing data shows nearly all the inmates serving substantial prison terms committed violent crimes on that day. These are not people who, broke a couple windows or trespassed or held an illegal demonstration. No. Former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn, who was among those who were assaulted, you remember he was one of the cops that testified before the J6 committee. Anyway, Harry Dunn said, quote, "People who will be pardoned will be the violent ones. That's who's left to pardon. Those who went to jail were the most violent that day," end quote. Now, according to analysis by HuffPost, let me see here, those serving a year or more in prison, of those serving a year or more in prison, 57% were convicted of assaulting a police officer, while 83% serving sentences at least that long were convicted of committing an act of violence. So you understand what the orange Nazi has promised he's going to do. This fucker cares not the least bit about legal behavior, lawful behavior, I should say. Trump is an outlaw. He always has been. He's a grifting little prick who has no respect for any law, state law, constitutional law, city ordinances. He doesn't give a shit. If it gets in his way, he just steps over it or steps through it. And this is what the Supreme Court ruled this year he is entitled to do as president. He can do whatever he goddamn pleases. Any president can, since the Supreme Court ruling, which, again, raises the issue with me is why Joe Biden, knowing that he was exempt from any kind of prosecution by the Supreme Court, at least I think he was, why didn't he terminate Trump with extreme prejudice when he had the chance? Oh, maybe he's got something planned for later. We'll see. Where was I? Oh, yeah. The HuffPost analysis also found that of the 534 scum who completed nonviolent cases, 273 of them received no jail time, 138 were sentenced to 2 months or less, 49 received 2 to 6 months, 26 of these bastards got 7 to 12 months, 48 were sentenced to more than a year, for an average sentence time of all these scum bastards, all 534 who were charged with nonviolent crimes, they served an average sentence of 4.3 months. And they're all out now. Nobody's still in jail except these violent son of a bitches. Now, the average sentence for 319 violent cases was 38 months. And 27 of those defendants got no jail time. 18 of the ones convicted of violent crimes got 2 months or less. 16 received 7 to 12 months. And 236 of these scum were sentenced to more than a year. One more. I know this drives you crazy. It makes my eyes glass over too, but I think we ought to know this. 5 of the 184 completed cases of assaulting a police officer, 5 of the 184 got no jail time. 1 got 2 months or less. 5 received 2 to 6 months. 10 were sentenced to 7 to 12 months. And 163 of the scum bastards who were convicted of assaulting a police officer, 163 received more than 1 year for an average sentence of 44 months. Officer Dunn, when shown these statistical truths, these numerical realities, Officer Dunn said, quote, "Show me a trespasser who's been sitting in jail for months. That doesn't happen," end quote. No, they are not trespassers who are still in jail. These are these violent, thuggish son of a bitches who cannot wait to get out and become the little private militia of this filthy pig bastard Donald Trump. Well, you never know. From now to January 20th, I mean, it's what, 4 weeks? Good month? What's the date today? Today's the 17th? Have a sip of River Moon coffee with me here. Okay. It's colder than a well digger's ass here in the foothills of the North Georgia mountains, believe me. And we've got a wind, too. I know, no weather reports. I'm sorry, just thought you might like to know. I don't know why I thought that. Trump, yeah. Democrats, especially those of us who are either Democrats or progressives or independents. I'm not talking about the maggot rats or these Christian fascists or the political participants in this country who still think they're Republicans. You're not, but if you think you are, okay. But all these people who immersed themselves in political news during the presidential campaign, well, those people, the ones I just mentioned, they are content to carry on because their Messiah, the rat bastard Christ Lord Jesus God Donald Trump, will soon assume his position of complete power. But the rest of us, you get the feeling we're a bit mentally exhausted? Huh? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.